Hi, and welcome to this second hangout for the Security Culture Summer Camp. I am Kai, and by now you have been listening to this voice and been seeing this face for quite a few this minutes, possibly hours, following the video lectures. Today, in this live hangout, you can, of course, use the time to ask questions. And if you do, please post them on the Google Hangout web page, or whatever we call this stuff. And please do it so the quicker you do it, the easier it is for me to see them before we close today. Last week, we spent some time discussing metrics and looking at how to create and set up the overall process of the security culture campaign and program. We have received some feedback from a couple of the students that some of the videos were unable to be played. Two of them. We have replaced them, and hopefully everyone were able to watch them. So hopefully everything is fine now. However, if you encounter any kind of problems, any kind of issues at all, or have any issues, please let us know. Either by sending an email directly to me, kai@roar.com, or to support@roar.com. We will do our best to handle your issues as quickly and soon as we can. Also, if you have any questions for any of the lectures, you can use the comments below each lecture. We get noticed for that, and either ourselves or other students may, of course, join the discussion and help solving your questions. Just as we did with one of the questions we had this week were about a definition of measure. And the question asked if there were a difference between the points 1 and 3 in this particular slide. And yes, they are, but probably more interested for linguistics and people are really into details. But we see these questions and we do our best to answer them. So let's move on to this week. It will make a lot of sense for you if you are able to finish last week's assignment this week before you start this week's assignment. And the reason for that is that you will be building on it. But it is not critical that you finish it before you start this week assignment. You can do them in parallel as well. Only in the end will we start putting these things together, and then you see why it makes sense to do each of these tasks. This week we are looking at the organization side of things, and if you have completed the lectures this week, you know then that it's actually not one thing but two things to take care of there. First one is involving the organization, so building your team, getting your support from your stakeholders, communicating with the management, all of those things. And the second part of organization is working with your audience, so doing an audience analysis and understanding who you are trying to communicate with and who you are trying to engage into changing their culture and social behavior. So today I thought I'll just go quickly through this week's content and the assignment. So last week we were doing an assignment on metrics and defining goals and measurements. This week you are doing two things in parallel as well. One is to set up your team. And if I can get this on the screen here, we should have this here. Let me see if this works. You should now be seeing the template that is part of this week's assignment. And the template is a list of possible roles that you may want to consider for your different kinds of groups to help you. Now, obviously, this kind of size and the kind of number of people that is suggested in this particular template may or may not suit you and your organization and your needs. The reason for that is that this is created mainly for larger enterprises, so you would normally have some sort of a governance team or a steering committee, while in smaller organizations you are more likely to report directly either to your CIO or to the CEO or your board directly. But then the second here is an important thing. It's a core team, and the core team is those people who work together with you to build and define the goals for the security culture program, and then work to implement it over time. So this team would normally consist of someone from marketing and someone from HR, in addition to someone from security. Then you can have other team members, like optional team members, depending again both on your industry, your size of the organization, and that. You may also decide that each security culture campaign should have its own teams, which is perfectly fine. It may actually be a very good idea, both because sometimes you would run campaigns locally at different locations, while it makes no big sense to you to be part of that actual running, but they would report back to the core team. Another reason is that depending on your target audiences, you may decide to do different kinds of campaigns, and that for one type of audience, say, for example, for the sales team, it makes sense to set up a separate campaign team that works with campaigns targeting this audience directly. Let's quickly skim through what kind of persons you would like to include in the different groups here. So from a governance or steering group, steering committee perspective, you would want to include some executive sponsors. So that would usually be CEO or CIO, depending on your organization, or at least location head or manager. Again, this depends a lot on your organizational size and structure, but the higher you can get for this one, the better usually. Now, the purpose of the governance group is not to run the core activities and not to manage the security culture program. The purpose here is that these are the people you would normally report to, and these people will help you get the support you need and build the accord with the rest of the management team and the rest of the board and the other parts of the organization that you should be including and involving in your security culture program. Now, when we take a look at the core team, you will see that it says a program manager, then security manager, HR expert, and communications expert. The security manager can or cannot be you. It depends again on your time. Maybe you delegate this to someone who is in charge of awareness in your organization. That's perfectly fine. The reason that we separate between a security manager and a program manager is that although you ultimately are responsible to create the security culture and for security, it does not mean that you have to manage the program yourself. Maybe it makes sense for you in your organization to have someone to actually manage the program for you, someone who knows program management and who can do all the follow-ups and organization, organizing all the tasks and objectives and deliverables that has to be done, then you can be the subject matter expert on security, and then make sure that the things that you think are important are done without actually having to spend too much time on running the program itself. Then the HR expert you bring in, because usually HR, they have onboarding and offboarding programs, which you probably are part of already. They know culture. They focus on training. They usually deal with training suppliers. So it makes a lot of sense to work with them. And ultimately, when it comes to organizational culture, it is the HR department. You also want to involve someone who knows communication. Usually we say marketing department, but of course not every organization out there have marketing departments. But usually you will have someone who deal with communication, either PR or other sorts of communication. So bring these people on board. And even if you don't have them on site or inside your organization, most organizations will have some external resources for this. Again, the idea here, the purpose of this role is to ensure that we can adapt the communication in such a way that it makes sense for someone who is not into security and someone who is not mainly focused on security, but mainly focused on something else. So that's a core group. Then in the core group, you may have optional members. So if it's large enough, maybe you want a project coordinator, a project consultant, depending on, or project office consultant, depending on how you are organized. You may want to have someone who is trained and specialized in creating end-user trainings. Sometimes these are also called instructional designers. The American Society for Training and Development, ASTD, or ATD, I think they are called currently, they certified and create these kind of experts. And their job is basically to help you design and create trainings and training activities that ensures that you actually reach your defined goals. So if you have the luxury to bring someone like this one on board, do so. Documentation people makes a lot of sense, not only to document everything you do, but in order to write compelling copy that resonates with people, and also to document the work that you are doing so that someone else can take over if you should be changing jobs in the future, which happens to a lot of people, I hear. Then another role that may be relevant to implement or to bring on board in your core team or in your campaign teams, depending on how you organize this, is someone from the department or the audience target group, or someone else who knows about the specific things about this area or group that you are working with. So say that, for example, you are multinational, then and you are spread over, say, 3 different continents, then having someone on your team that knows about the different kinds of cultures that resides on different continents, that makes a lot of sense, so that you can as early as possible avoid the pitfalls that comes with working with the people across borders and cultures. Then finally, we have the campaign team. And as I said in the beginning, setting up separate teams for running your campaigns may be a very, very efficient way of scaling up and also training more people in security culture. So to reiterate, the campaigns are the projects that you run over and over again to reach your short-term objectives, and that you measure before and after. And setting these up as projects means that you can also have project teams, project members, if you like. You would, of course, want someone to manage the project. And just like with the core team, you don't have to do it yourself. You can here use some sort of a project manager to do all those things. Then you need someone with the security expertise and preferably with an interest in awareness as well. Again, you would want someone from HR and communication, and you would also like to bring on board someone who is representative or understands or know about your target audience. So in your assignment this week, what I ask you to do is to look through and set up at least a core group and preferably a campaign group. Now, depending on your size and maturity of your organization, the core group and the campaign group may be the same. And possibly in the beginning it should, until you can train and develop more people with more skills to separate it. So that's the template for identifying project team members and their responsibilities. And also it says roles, and roles and responsibilities means that if you have a small organization, you may of course have one person do different responsibilities and several of the roles. Some startups and SMBs usually do that, we see. So that's the team. Let me just check if we have no questions about that yet. So if you have questions, then post them. If not, I will just skip on through to the next template and the second part of your assignment this week, which is to do a target audience analysis. Now, target audience analysis is, let me see if this is the right one. Audience analysis. There we are. Audience analysis is something you do if you are a public speaker, if you're a trainer, or if you do marketing. And what you do there specifically is to understand your target audience. The idea here is that the better you understand them, the easier it is for you to align your message so that they buy into it or do what you want them to do. In marketing, we want people to buy our products. In public speaking, we want people to resonate and understand. And when it comes to security culture and doing these campaigns, what we want to do is to understand our audience so that we can craft a message that makes sense to them, not only to ourselves. There are many ways of doing audience analysis. Using this template is one of them. Your marketing department usually will have their own saying and comments and thoughts about this. The idea with this template is to focus on security culture and understanding how we use the systems that are available and how we can use our knowledge as security professionals to understand the needs of our target audience. So as an example here, I will use the example of a department, and then I will walk through the explanation here with that perspective. So let's choose the sales department. I don't know why, but they have become one of my favorite departments, possibly because they tend to be very different from a lot of security people, but not all security people. So when you use this template to analyze your sales department, you can start at the top by considering what systems do they use. And by systems here, we are talking about computer systems, right? So this could be CRM system. What kind of CRM systems do they use? If they use them, and they probably do. Then what other systems do they use? Do they have iPhones which are connected to something? Do they still use Blackberries? Or all the kind of systems and softwares that is used by this particular department. List them and try to understand them. Then you do the same with the security that they use. So do they have a specific needs or requirements when it comes to security? Your business developers probably will have a higher level of confidentiality requirements than normal account manager. So what is the security that is in place? And while you look at that, also look at the requirements for using and interacting with this security. It also helps you to look at what are the tasks that this particular department is doing. What is their job? What is important to them? What makes them tick? The more you can understand about their day job, the easier it is for you to adapt your message to make it resonate with them. So basically map out their systems, their security, the tasks they're doing, and everything that you know about them. And at this stage, you may even go and interview them and look at them and observe them and try to figure out, so what is specific for them and what are they doing that is done all over your organization. Next, it makes a lot of sense to look at psychographics. And psychographics are psychological factors that impact people and how these people respond and react to you and to other people and to the organization as a whole. As an example, you can think of people as extroverted or introverted, where extroverted people would be those who go out there and joke and become the party of the center of the party and have a lot of fun, while introverts still have a lot of fun, but they are more likely to be observing and quiet and not as entertaining as extroverted people. Just by using that continuum, you can learn a lot about people. Now, on a sales department, on a scale of introverted to extroverted, most of us would probably put the salespeople more on the extroverted side than the introverted side. While when it comes to security people, a lot of security people tend to be introverted more than extroverted. But again, it depends a little bit. But the point here is to try to understand them as people. How are they? How do they prefer to communicate, for example? Another key here is their attitude towards security. So do they like security, or do they think security is a nuance? Are they openly hostile, or do they support you and are friendly? These things will help you understanding how to communicate with them and how to attack them, if you like, but not in a violent sense, that attack, in a communication sense. You may also want to look at how much do they know about security and understand it, for example. It may be also very relevant for you to add your own psychographics. And again, possibly the HR department may be able to help you both understanding more about psychographics and what kind of psychographics you can use. Now, a word of warning, the purpose here is not to create or do a personality analysis of every single person in that department. The idea here is to help you understand the department as a whole, or your target audience as a whole, so that you can better craft a message that resonates with as many of them as possible. Then we have demographics, and demographics are typical, so they are elements that describe people, like age and background, location, stuff like this. And from a demographic point of view, you may be interested in their age, possibly in their education, gender, maybe not. It depends a little bit on your organization, what you do, and your purpose and message. Language may play a big role, and also geographic location. For example, if your team is, if you have one team in India and one in New York, you may have to change the way you communicate with them, and also change your expectations of how they will respond to your communication. Finally, one thing that I like to point out here is, are there any low-hanging fruits? And by low-hanging fruit, I mean, is there any department or any group or any areas that kind of screams to you, saying, hey, look at us, we kind of need you or want you, or are someone you should focus on? The reason for this is that low-hanging fruits may provide an excellent opportunity for you to try out your new campaigns and programs, and also they may provide someone or a group that you can get easily or quick results from. And results are something that you can later use to document that the activities that you do actually make sense, and that you should have more money from your supporters to do more activities next year. Now, the template, as you see it here, without the explanations, comes with columns saying D1, 2, 3, and 4. And those, the idea here is to take, for example, 4 different departments and then put them up and compare them to each other's. It could also be 4 different locations or 4 different teams, depending on your organization and how you and your map looks. And then, of course, then you can compare, is any one of these particular departments a low-hanging fruit or not, and then maybe that would be where you start your activities. So that's the audience analysis template that you will be playing with in your assignment this week. For this particular assignment, the purpose is to help you understand how to organize and work with people and your employees to better build culture. So although some of these things may be new to you or maybe even strange, I do meet a lot of technical security people who look at me and say, wow, we want to deal with marketing people? Really? Or when I use the sales department as an example, and then, yeah, those clowns. And to me, that kind of attitude, not on the behalf of the sales and marketing department, but on the behalf of the security professionals, also says quite a lot about their internal culture. This is the security professionals' ideas, customs, and social behavior about the rest of their organization. And in my opinion, if we fail to recognize the value that other departments bring to the organization, we also fail to recognize our own responsibility towards them and our own function in this organization. We should be there to help them do their job better, not to be there to kind of put up our hands and say, wow, you are a clown, or I don't understand what you're doing, so I don't want to help you, or put the no into innovation, as some security people are also known to be. We, as security professionals, we should be there to help them understand how security is vital for them to be able to do their job better. So that's the templates for this week. I have also added something else that I like this week. It's called an empathy map. If you haven't seen the lectures this week yet, then that's fine. You will see this later. The empathy map, however, is a very, very interesting way of learning or analyzing, trying to understand how other people see the world. And understanding how other people see the world is a very, very nice way for us to see that, my perspective is not always the right one, or even the only one. There may be other ways of looking at things. So using the empathy map, I'll bring it up here, is a very, very good way of doing that. So let me click here, then you should be seeing. And basically, it is a very, very simple exercise to do. You draw a head like this, and then you try to consider, so you put a name on it, and the name could either be a person, so sometimes it makes sense to do this with a stakeholder or a sponsor or a supporter of your project, so the CISO or your CEO or a board member or who knows. But it can also be used on a more general level, for example, for a group of people or a department. So, for example, you could use this as well for the sales department to try and understand how they function, how they work. And then you draw a face, you put the name there, and then you try to understand what do they think and feel. So what really matters to them? What are their worries? Do they have anything that they want to achieve? Is there something you can help with them? And is there something that kind of cloud their minds, get in their ways? You can also try to look at what they are seeing, so their environment, trying to see a salesperson's daily life. What do they go through during the day? Then you can try to understand how their attitude is by seeing how they act. So what they think and feel is usually close, but you can try to analyze it. But what they see and do, you can usually observe through their attitude in public. Then you can try to look into what do they hear. So what are friends saying? You can ask around, so what do other people in your organization say about this group of people or persons? Then, of course, in the bottom, looking at the pain and their gains. So what are they afraid of? For a salesperson, that could be not meeting his budgets. Frustrations and obstacles. Obstacles could be your security programs or having advanced passwords. Then again, then try to figure out how can your security efforts be related to something that they could gain from it. And then make it personal, as I like to say. And the more you understand about their needs and requirements, the easier it becomes for you to adapt to them and their needs, and thus make it more relevant and more likely that they will pay attention to you and do the changes that you are asking from them. You want to facilitate the transformation of their behavior, not just force it on them. And that transformation brings me to another point, which is engagement. What we should try to do as security professionals and trying to build culture is to engage people. There is a lot of studies about engagement. I posted one very recent, which came out today, I think, actually, from Gallup, which is their latest survey on engagement of employees. And this particular one focused on organizations in Germany, saying that only 15% of the employees in German companies are engaged while working. Now, that may or may not be good. We have to look into the numbers, but we also have to understand what does it mean to be engaged, or even worse, not being engaged, because that's the other side of this scale. So you have 15% being engaged, but in the same numbers, we see that 15% of German employees are not engaged. And the difference there is that when you are engaged, you are less likely to do mistakes. You are more open to change. You are more flexible, and it is less likely that you will introduce, for example, an outside threat or do something that you shouldn't do. While if you are not engaged, it's quite easy to think that we can that a not engaged person will also quickly become insider threat, someone who will use their same password everywhere, someone who will click that link or attachment and not really stop, someone who will talk behind your back and create a counter action towards your transformational efforts. So engaging your employees is really, really important, and also measuring them. And that so one of the things that this Gallup study also do is promote Gallup's own survey tools for measuring engagement and employee engagement. And that may be one way to set up your own metrics and use engagement as one way of measuring culture. I need something for my voice now. So we are closing up and getting very close to the end. Next week, we will be looking at topics. Topics are a collective name that we use in the framework for anything that you do to facilitate that transformational cultural change. So they can be anything from trainings, which we see a lot from in security awareness. They can be posters and postcards and whatever gadget that you have, but they can also be other things like revising your policies and changing your technology or whatever. The purpose of topics is to make sure that they help you reach the goals that you have set and your objectives, and that they align to the needs of your target audience, not only yours, but your target audience again. So that's next week. Unless there are any questions, I don't see anyone. I will give you a few seconds to write them down if you have them. Then it's time for me to have dinner, actually. And I am enjoying Norwegian summer. Not as sunny today as it was the past week, but it's still quite nice. And I plan on going outside and enjoying dinner with my wife and Norwegian summer. As always, if you have any questions, any concerns, or need anything, use either the comments or send me an email or reach out to support@roar.com. We are here to help you succeed. That is why we do this. And the better you become at doing this, the more happy we are. So please use and abuse us. We are here for you. With that, best of luck with this week's assignment, and enjoy your lectures, and hopefully you will have some time to enjoy the sun and summer as well. Bye for now, and thank you.